Hello, and welcome to New Moon Knitting. I'm Hillary, and today we're doing a knit and chat. So hello, welcome back to my knitting podcast. As you can probably tell, I am a little under the weather today. I'm recording this on January 1st, 2025. And I have been sick pretty much since Christmas, so for about a week now. And part of being sick, I 100% completely lost my voice. As of like the weekend, I didn't have any voice at all. So this is actually the best that I've sounded in quite a few days. And so I thought physically I'm feeling much better, even if I still sound a little wonky. But I thought I would give it a try and put together a knit and chat video that I've been promising for a while, which is I reached out on Instagram and on YouTube for any questions that people might have for me. And I wanted to do an AMA. And so I'm getting it out a little bit later than I had wanted to, but I'm going to try to truck through and answer all of your questions today. I am well prepared. I have brought 3 beverages for me. I have this gigantic mug of tea. I also have my gigantic water bottle. And as a treat, I also brought sparkling water. So I'm hoping with plenty of fluids, I'll be able to get through this and can answer some of your questions. So for the knit part of the knit and chat, today I am going to be working on my turtleneck sweater by Naringa. This is a top-down raglan sweater, and I'd say about maybe a third to halfway through the body of it. So it's just knitting in the round right now. I will take this little stitch marker. I have this little kitty cat stitch marker, and I'll put it in my knitting right now and right where I am currently. And then when I am done, we can go ahead and see how much progress I made while I tried to answer questions. All right, so I'm going to start with questions that are not related to knitting. So somebody asked, I have my notes on my computer over here, if you see me looking. Somebody asked what my day job is. So I am a software engineer. I am a front-end software engineer, so I work primarily on like website stuff. And I also am kind of in a hybrid role where I'm also doing people leadership. So along with like coding that I do on my day-to-day, I also run a team. I manage a team of 4 engineers. So I do like individual people management as well as project management for that team. I work for a fairly large company that does technology stuff, but it's not like one of the FANG tech companies like Google or Amazon or anything like that. And I have been doing this for a little over 6 years now. I actually went to college for film. After college, I worked as a digital archivist at a TV channel for a while, and I basically got to this point where if I wanted to keep moving up in that job, I would have to go to school for a master's in library sciences, and I wasn't ready to make that commitment. So I ended up trying to find something else I was interested in doing, and I found coding. I did a 6-month web development boot camp where I learned how to code, and that's how I ended up in the career that I have now. Also, I'm really sorry, like my setup is not such that it's very easy for me to show you what I'm knitting while I knit and chat, but I'm hoping maybe there's like a little bit of ASMR from my needles as I'm going through, but I am actually working on this, so. Somebody asked, how did you meet your husband? So my husband and I met playing soccer. We were on a rec soccer team, and because we live in the DC area, we actually used to play on what's called the National Mall, which is, if you've ever seen a movie that takes place in Washington, DC, it's that big green area around all the big monuments and stuff. So that's really cool that that's where we met for the first time. And my husband is very good at soccer. He's good at a lot of sports, but he's especially good at soccer. And I am not good at soccer at all. I just came to have fun. I put a lot of effort in, but I'm not a very naturally coordinated person. And so it was really fun, though. It was a great team. And now we have been together for almost 10 years and married for a little over 5. So someone asked, what are my other hobbies other than knitting? I love to travel. I'm really lucky. I have actually been able to go to Europe 3 times in the last 18 months, which is unusual even for me. I've had one was a work opportunity. And so it was really great because I got to go to a bunch of countries I'd never been to before. I got to explore different parts of France and the Netherlands and Belgium and Spain. And yeah, it was amazing. And I can't wait to do more traveling. I would love to go to some places in Asia. Particularly, I'd love to go to Japan. I would really love to go to Australia and New Zealand someday. I would really like to see India. And there's lots of the United States that I actually haven't seen that I would love to see more of. I really like playing sports. Like I said, I'm not very good at very many sports, but I do love playing team sports. I actually just played pickleball for the first time over the break before I got sick, and I had a really good time. And so, yeah, that was fun. I just love playing sports. So yeah, those are some other things that I like to do when I'm not knitting. But I would say knitting is probably my predominant hobby that I do. All right, so somebody asked about my dog. They wanted to know more about my dog, and I'm gonna see if I can get him to come up here. So this is Lando, my dog. He's being a real good sport, coming up here for a minute. We adopted him in 2017. He is 8 years old. We don't know what kind of dog he is. His paperwork said he was a lab and a shepherd mix, but he's not that big, so we think maybe there's another kind of breed in there as well. He is my first ever dog. I'd never had a dog before. And he's a real sweetheart, and he is very active. And he is currently wearing his halibut sweater. I have a video about making this halibut sweater version for my dog because it looks like the one that I made for myself. So I'll link to that if you haven't seen that video before. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for being such a good boy. Yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to some questions that are about knitting. So the first one is, how long have you been knitting? So I think I've been knitting for about 15 years. Another question was, when did you learn how to knit? And I'm pretty sure I first learned how to knit when I was in late high school, early college. I learned the basics from my mom. I think she taught me how to knit and purl. And for a long time, really all I was making was scarves and stuff. At one point, I learned how to knit in the round and I started making hats. But that was kind of the extent of it. I was into just other crafty stuff, more stuff at the time. I was doing a lot more cross stitch and things like that. And so I didn't really get into it until 2020. So in 2020, like a lot of people, I found that I just was at home a lot more. I had a lot more time at home. And so I started looking at tutorials and things like that on how to do more complex garment making. I made my first pair of socks in 2020, and that was a total game changer for how I looked at knitting. Because it just seemed like, I've talked about this before, it seemed like such magic. The way that you, not being super familiar with the terminology or anything, I was just working these short rows, and I couldn't envision how they were going to come together to create the heel of a sock. I couldn't envision how these flat stitches would create something so three-dimensional. And so, yeah, that totally changed and reinvigorated me into wanting to try new things with knitting. And from there in 2021, I knit my first sweater, and then it's been like nonstop since. And now it's like my favorite thing to do. Someone asked what inspired you to start knitting. So I have always loved crafts. Like I mentioned, I did cross stitch. I did some hand sewing growing up. I liked to do painting. I did art classes and like any other crafts for years. So I've always just been like I was that kind of a kid. And so my mom knew how to knit, and she had made me a couple of like scarves and stuff. This was when Harry Potter was very popular. She made me like a Gryffindor scarf, and I thought it would just be really cool to learn how to knit so that I could also make things like that, scarves and stuff. And so, yeah, I was just really inspired to learn from what I had seen my mom do. Someone asked, how many sweaters/tops have you knit? So I'm not 100% sure. One thing historically for me, I am not great at keeping track of what I have knit. I have a goal for 2025 to like get better at it and to make sure that I'm really tracking everything that I make. And also I am very quick if I don't like the way a garment came out to either frog it or give it to somebody who I know will like it more. And so I can't even like count the number of sweaters I just like have in my house that I've made. So I would say I did count kind of what I could, and then I tried to kind of estimate for what wasn't there. And I believe I've made about 25 garments. Almost all of those are sweaters. Almost all of them are sweaters for me. I have knit a sweater for my mom, but that's the only other adult sweater I've knit. And so I'm just counting adult sweaters for this number. I have knit probably 7 or 8 baby sweaters as well. And yeah, they're almost all sweaters. I don't do much summer knitting. I've had a really hard time historically finding patterns and yarns that I like for summer tops. And so hoping kind of this year, maybe I can figure that out a little bit and make something for the summertime. It's just, that's a long period of time where I live where I can't wear any of my knit items really because it's just too hot. So yeah, I'd like to do more of that. But right now I would say I've knit 25 adult garments. Someone asked, what is the most fun pattern you've ever made? And honestly, I think it was the halibut sweater for my dog. That was just a really fun project. I really liked making the halibut sweater for myself. I thought that the color work was like very addicting and really fun to do. And then the dog version was really fun because I had to take that initial pattern and figure out how to reconstruct it for the shape of a dog's body. And yeah, I don't know. I just had a really fun time making it. And I really liked the way the final product came out. So yeah, I think that was my favorite one, was the dog halibut sweater. Someone asked, what is my favorite knit that I've made to wear? And I think that's probably the drizzle cardigan that I made this year. So I made that with Hedgehog Fibers Tweety, which is a yarn that I had really wanted to try for a long time, but I had kind of struggled to justify the price of it. And so not this year, but last Thanksgiving, they had a Black Friday or a Cyber Monday sale, and it lowered the price enough where I felt comfortable justifying my purchase of it for a sweater. Because the yarn felt so special, I wanted to make sure that I had the perfect pattern to use it with. And so I spent a long time looking for the right thing because I wanted something that had a lot of stockinette to show off those Tweety bits, but also had something kind of to elevate it, to make it feel more special. And so the drizzle cardigan felt like the perfect combination of those criteria because it's a pretty stockinette cardigan, but it has a really lovely cable pattern down the back. And so I picked that. And yeah, I think that's my favorite to wear because from a distance, it reads as a neutral because it's a gray color, but up close, it has all of these fun colored bits in it. I get a lot of compliments when I wear it from people. And so yeah, I think that's probably my favorite to wear. I also love wearing my Aros sweater by Petite Knit. This sweater is special because I purchased all the yarn last year when I was in Europe on vacation. So I purchased the yarn in Amsterdam, London, and Paris, the 3 cities that we went to while we were on vacation. And then I used it to create the stripes in the arrow sweater. And so whenever I wear it, I think about that trip and how much fun I had and what a great adventure it was. So that's also one that I really like to wear because it just feels so special because of where the yarn came from. Someone asked, what's one pattern you would like to try? There are a lot of patterns I would like to try. In general, I would like to try some Sari Nordland patterns. I think her work is very beautiful. I really like what she does with cables. I've saved quite a few of her patterns, and I just haven't gotten around to doing any of them. And so I think I would really like to try some Sari Nordland stuff. I also have a specific pattern, and I'm going to grab, it's in a magazine. So I picked up this copy of the Rowan Knitting and Crochet. It's magazine 36. I got this at a book fair that they were having at my local library. And there is a cardigan in here that's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So this is it. Right here. It's so big. It's like a duster. I can't even really show it that well in the thing, but it's just got these like giant flowers all over it, and it's floor length, and I think it's so beautiful. I think it's incredibly impractical. There's no way I would wear a sweater like that on any regular basis, but I really want to see if I can, hang on, I'm just looking for I'm going to show it kind of far away, but like they have the charts in here. They have the charts. And so I want to see if maybe I can make like a more cropped version of it. Make it in a way that makes sense for the way that I would actually wear it. So yeah, that is like one specific thing that like I really, really want to try someday, is to make that sweater. Someone asked, what knit are you most proud of? So I think for me, I knit the Dark Academia sweater, I think last year, and that was my first fingering weight sweater, and it had this all over color work to it. So that was a very complex pattern and certainly went a lot slower than most of the other makes I had done up to that point. And so when I was done with it, I was incredibly proud of how it came out and the work that went into it. So I think my Dark Academia sweater is what I'm most proud of. Somebody asked, what are your most worn knits? So I tend to wear my cardigans a lot. So my champagne cardigan that I finished this fall, my drizzle cardigan. I had, until very recently, a really lovely balloon cardigan that I had knit that I somehow ran through the washing machine, and it was heartbreaking. But those layering pieces, those cardigans, do tend to be the items that I get the most wear out of, which I think I should take into account because I don't knit. I knit a lot more pullovers. Should probably pay attention to the fact that I'm wearing my cardigans a lot more and make some more cardigans. I also wear my handmade socks a ton. So my handmade socks get worn pretty much every day between like October 15th and maybe like April 1st. So I wear those a ton. My handmade socks get a lot of wear. They never look nice because they get so much wear. But yeah, those are probably the things that I wear the most. Why did you decide to start a knitting podcast? And that's a great question because there are a lot of people in the knitting community that have podcasts. And there's a lot of people that have really great podcasts. And you could say it's a bit of a saturated market. But I have been really inspired by the knitting podcast community for years and years and years. I wanted a way to engage with the community in a way that felt a little bit more comfortable for me. So I sometimes struggle in real life to make connections with other knitters because I have an anxiety disorder. So I have just like generalized anxiety, but it tends to manifest a lot in social anxiety. And I tend to struggle with like interpersonal communication and interactions and things like that. I don't have any real life knitting friends. I have like friends that I've known for a long time who do some knitting, but I'm not really part of the knitting community in a way that I would like to be. And so I like being able to share what I'm working on and get like wonderful advice and feedback from other people. And, I really love hearing from everybody, and everybody's been really nice and wonderful so far. People are really friendly. I think this has given me a little bit more confidence. And as I continue to, work with my therapist on my anxiety and stuff, that in the new year, in the current year, I guess, because it is 2025 as I record this, that I can start to reach out a bit more and engage more with the knitting community. And I just continue to grow as a person because I really love what knitting has done for my life. And I want to continue to share and talk with other people where it's done the same for them. All right, so somebody asked me a question about yarn with milk fiber. They asked what my plans were for it. They said, I watched a whole bunch of documentaries and YouTube videos about milk fiber, and it's fascinating. So that got me really interested because I had purchased a skein of yarn when I was in Barcelona that had milk fiber in it. And I pretty much just bought it because I'd never heard of milk fiber. And I couldn't envision how milk, this liquid, becomes a fiber you can knit with. And so after they mentioned they did a lot of research, I looked into it a little bit about the history of milk fiber, and it seems like it's created from the casein protein in milk. So basically they evaporate all the liquids and they just take that protein, and then they use it to make what's called a semi-synthetic fiber. So you have true synthetics like acrylics, and then you have semi-synthetics, which is where milk fiber would fall into. It was patented in the 1930s in Italy and was actually a very popular fiber for fabric wear and things like that until true synthetics like acrylic were introduced, I think in the mid-century. Like I said, I purchased one skein of milk fiber. It was not pure milk fiber. It was a milk wool blend called Knit Two Together from All You Knit Is Love in Barcelona. The color was called Cantaloupe, and I made a pair of Guinnell mitts out of it. I really like the way those mitts feel. One thing they always mention about milk fiber is that it can feel a little bit like silk. It has some of that smoothness, the sheen of silk to it. And I will say there is a little bit of that kind of sheen that you get with a silk fabric. I guess milk fiber is also durable, like true synthetics, like acrylic, so you can machine wash pure milk fiber yarn, which is really cool. And combined, actually, let me see if I can find the mitts so I can show them real quick. So yeah, these are the mitts that I made with them. Sorry, my lighting is not great today because I tried sitting at my desk instead of my normal spot so that I could try to get Lando to join for a couple minutes. So sacrificing some of the usual setup stuff for this setup. Yeah, they're real warm. They're great. The durability is great. I wear them mostly when I'm volunteering. I volunteer at like a horse barn, and so they're great because they're real durable and they're real warm, and so far so good. So yeah, so it was a good project to make. I would love to use it again. I'd like to find like a 100% milk fiber yarn and try making, I think maybe it would be a good alternative to true synthetics for baby knits. I tend to use like acrylic yarn if I'm making something for kids because they need to be machine washable. And so, yeah, I'd like to try that. But yeah, thank you for asking that question because it did allow me to do some research and learn a little bit more about milk fiber. Someone asked, what is your favorite fiber to work with? Are there any fibers you don't like to work with? I am a regular old wool girly. I love a 100% wool. I'm not knowledgeable enough to say that there are specific other breeds of sheep wool that I prefer. I think I would love to learn more about the specifics of Romney, Targhee, things like that. And so, but yeah, I love wool. All wool yarns are my favorite to work with. Depending on sort of the itchiness, it will kind of affect what project I want to work on, if I want it to be against my skin or not. But in terms of knitting with it, I love knitting with wool. I love holding a strand of lace weight mohair or Surrey alpaca with a project. I really like the halo and the look that it gives a piece, but also I really love the warmth that you can get from mohair. I am a person that is perpetually cold, and so it's nice to have lighter weight sweaters that are still very warm, and I like the way that mohair can give you that effect. So that's another one I really love. In terms of yarns I don't like working with, I kind of mentioned this, but have found very few summer yarns that I enjoy working with. So cotton, linen, things like that. I just so far have not really found a yarn that I enjoy knitting with in those fabrics. I don't always like the way that they drape and the way that they will expand as time goes on. I think maybe what I need to do is find like a cotton wool blend or something, so it's a little lighter weight and I can get away with wearing it at least for part of the summer months, but isn't 100% cotton. So I think I probably need to keep looking into that. But yeah, historically, those have not been my favorite to work with. I think it's time to crack in to my seltzer water. Someone said, I never know what to buy my wife in terms of knitting gifts. What should I get her? And that's tricky because, everybody's so different. But I would say if it was me, if my husband were asking this question, first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking the person what they would like as a gift most of the time. If you need ideas, I certainly don't mind not being surprised. But let's say you want to surprise your wife with a knitting gift. I would not buy yarn. I would stay away from yarn. I just think there's way too much variation in it. There's too many colors, there's too many fibers, there's too many weights that if you are not a knitter yourself, it can be very difficult to correctly figure out what is a good yarn and a good yarn amount to purchase for somebody else. I would suggest stitch markers as a gift. I think they don't take up much room, they're very tiny, but also you can end up really personalizing the gift by finding stitch markers that represent something that your significant other really likes, that the gift recipient really enjoys. So, and they tend to be very cute. You can get them in a variety of styles. And yeah, I think they're a really cute little way to, make their whatever project they're on feel a little more special. So that would be my recommendation, would be to find some stitch markers that represent the gift recipient in a special way. Someone asked about sock blockers, what kind of material to get in a sock blocker, and if I have any recommendations. So wood versus metal. I have metal sock blockers. I just have the metal outline ones. I got them because I think they do a better job of drying the socks than wooden sock blockers, because they allow a lot more airflow through the body of the sock. Mine have those little hangers, so I tend to hang them up as they're blocking. So you're really getting all that airflow through it. You're exposing, all four sides, and you're getting that airflow in the middle. And so they tend to dry pretty quickly. I wouldn't say I'm an expert though. These are the only ones I've ever tried. And so if you have recommendations for specific sock blockers, if anybody watching this has recommendations, If you can include them down below in the comments, that would be awesome. I'd love to learn more about what people's opinions are, recommendations, things like that on the best sock blockers out there. Do you have any favorite yarn stores or knitting events in the DMV? And if you're not familiar with the term, DMV is a short nickname for Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So it's the regional area where I live. I live in Virginia, in the northern part near Washington, D.C., nearish Washington, D.C. So I love Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. That was the first big fiber festival I ever went to, and I just think it's amazing. I love all the barns with the sheep, and I love all of the vendors that are there, not just for wool and yarn and stuff, but just like other beautiful crafts. I love the food vendors that sell all those amazing cheeses. I always get so much cheese when I go. I love watching the demonstrations they do with sheep for shearing and things like that. And yeah, I just have a great time every time I go. I've gone with twice, and I went with my husband this year, and I was really afraid like he was not going to have a good time because he's not a fiber person, but there is so much going on there that he genuinely enjoyed himself because he got to do all these other things and see all this stuff. And he also ended up getting a bunch of yarn for me to make him socks. So yeah, it's fun. I love it. I also really like Frederick Fiber Fest. It's a little bit smaller. It doesn't have quite as many like other things going on apart from vendors, but the vendors that they have are always really great, and I always find some really, really great stuff while I'm there. I will be honest, I don't shop that much at my local yarn stores. I tend to try to like prioritize working on my stash, or if I'm buying new yarn, I tend to buy it at a festival or if I'm traveling. So I don't go that often. I have been to Fiber Space in Alexandria, and from what I remember, that's a really beautiful store that has a really nice variety of yarns. I will tend to go to Red Fox Yarns in Vienna, Virginia, if I need tools, if I need needles and or things like that. And so, yeah, those are really the only two I've been to. Again, if you are from the DMV area, or if you've traveled through the DMV area and there are other stores you've been to that you think I should check out, please let me know. I would love to go and support some small businesses in the area. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I've done. All right, last question, which is probably good. I can feel my voice drifting away. What is my favorite knitting purchase and anything I regret buying? So my favorite purchase is my yarn ball winder and Swift. I, for probably far too long, was hand winding all of my skeins. And, it would take me a while, maybe 30 minutes, depending on the weight of the yarn, to wind up each ball by hand. And one year for Christmas, the first thing I asked for was a Swift because I hated the yarn management of trying to keep that skein taut. And so I got a wooden Swift, and I just remember how much faster it went suddenly winding the ball by hand still, but having the yarn management done for me, that cut my time in half. It probably was taking me 10 to 15 minutes now to wind a ball of yarn. And then the next year for Christmas, I asked for a ball winder. And that, game over once I got that. Like now, 5 minutes. I mean, if it's like fingering weight, it still takes a bit longer, but it's just so much faster. And the quality of those cakes is so much better than my little hand wound balls of yarn. So yeah, my bar none favorite purchases are my ball winder and Swift. There's not much that I regret buying. I will say there are definitely some individual yarns I bought because they were on sale that aren't the right fiber, they aren't the right color. I just kind of was caught up in the, purchase mentality of this is a bargain. But really not that many yarns that fall into that category. And I will say the first ball winder I bought, I went for kind of aesthetics over quality, I guess. I found this wooden ball winder online and it worked great for like a year, and then it broke. The like rubber belt for the winder broke, and I reached out to the company like 4 times just to get a replacement part because I didn't want to buy another one. It was one piece that broke. I wanted to repair it. And they never got back to me. And so I ended up getting a Knitter's Pride plastic one. It's not as pretty, I'll be honest. Like it's not aesthetically beautiful, but it is a workhorse. It works amazing, and it winds really lovely cakes of yarn. So yeah, I would say maybe that's a little bit of a regret too, and just like something I keep in mind when purchasing tools going forward. All right, so that's it for today. As you can probably hear, my voice is on its last legs, but I did get through all the questions I got. So once again, thank you so much if you reached out with a question. I had such a fun time answering these. This was really fun to kind of think about my knitting and things like that. And yeah, I'll show you my progress. I didn't really make any progress, I'll be honest. I did like maybe like 4 rounds of the body, 5. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 5 rounds. 5 rounds of the body of my sweater while I talked. I think I gesticulate a lot with my hands, and so it's hard for me to talk and knit at the same time. I get distracted. If you liked the video, feel free to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in seeing more of my work, maybe when my voice is back to normal, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you all again so much for watching and for being here, and I will see you all in the next one.